I now have the honor of welcoming our next speaker, Kathleen Korpela. Kathleen is the founder of Living Goldenwell. She is the creator of the Caregiving From The Middle program. She brings honesty and empathy to the caregiving conversation, drawing from her own experience supporting a parent with Alzheimer's while helping other women navigate elder care without losing themselves. Her talk, When Love Becomes Labor, will explore the hidden weight of caregiving while offering self-care strategies and communication tools to help you reclaim strength, support, and self-worth. Let's all give Kathleen a warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. Let me just share my screen here and get situated. And I think I saw your thumbs up. Okay, and let me have the chat open too so that I can see it. Okay, great. Can everybody see my slides okay? Okay, awesome. Well, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are joining from. I am so excited and honored to spend this time with you here at the Stronger Together Summit this weekend. So a little bit more by way of introduction on myself. I'm Kathleen Korpela. I am the founder of Living Goldenwell, a coaching and consulting practice that is focused on educating and empowering family caregivers. And I focus on and work mainly with professionals, women, and the sandwich generation. And I run and facilitate an educational, coaching, and support-based group program course for women that are caring for aging parents or getting close to that stage. It's called Caregiving from the Middle. And over the course of 12 weeks in the program, women gain knowledge and preparedness by creating their roadmap to navigate the complex world of elder care and really just step more confidently into supporting their parents without losing themselves, which is the part that we're going to be talking about in today's session. And then I also do keynote speaking similar to this and group workshop programs that I facilitate on elder care topics like balancing career and elder caregiving. So I am also here today as someone who has walked a caregiving journey with a loved one. My father had Alzheimer's dementia for just about 8 years. And his journey came to an end last year, which completed my caregiving journey, at least that one, with my parent. My mom is still around and healthy. And since that time has really given me the space and the motivation to create the business and the group program that I facilitate, and really be in service of women who are new to this elder care stage of life. And so today, I want to share three powerful insights that transformed not just how I approached caregiving, but really how I discovered my own strength and growth in the process so that you can also use these in your life and in your caregiving experience. And so today, during this time, what I really am hoping is that you will go home with three game-changing insights. Number one, how to reframe caregiving as a source of power, not depletion. And then number two, the strategic approach to self-care that actually works for busy caregivers. We're going to talk more about that. And then third, how to build your support system. I call it your support ecosystem so that you don't ever have to do this alone. And what I'm going to cover is not just feel good concepts, right? They're very practical strategies that will change how you think about and navigate the everyday ahead. So let's talk about insight number one. Caregiving is your superpower training ground. So I want to start with a radical reframe, okay? Instead of seeing caregiving as something that's happening to you, I want you to see it as something that's happening for you, right? This experience is developing capabilities in you that probably most people who don't go through a caregiving experience like this, especially a dementia one, get to discover in themselves, right? And I think about my dad and his progression, his decline, and something he really loved to do was yard work and mowing the yard. And that's something he'd done my entire life. And obviously as his dementia progressed, he lost his abilities, right, to do things. And with that came being able to do yard work and mow the yard. And kind of experiencing that decline and witnessing that was very, very hard. And I realized, in sort of each of those kind of step downs or those pivotal moments, I had a choice, right? I could either, see this in my dad and my loved one as a heartbreaking loss, or I could see it as my opportunity to step into a level of patience and creativity I'd never accessed before. And I chose the second option, and it really changed so much for me. And so here is another reframe when you think about what caregiving is actually teaching you, right? You really are becoming a master problem solver, navigating complex medical systems, insurance mazes, family dynamics, right? The list goes on. You're developing emotional intelligence, right? That really does put you in the top 1% of humans, right? Interacting with someone with dementia is very challenging. It takes a lot of emotional intelligence skill set. And you're also learning, right, to find joy in the smallest moments and meaning in some of the most difficult circumstances. And this really is developing, new capabilities and mindsets in you. So here is really the practical takeaway from this and an action step that you can take away from this session this weekend. Think about starting a superpowers journal, right? Journaling is a very effective mindfulness practice. Every week, right, think about writing down 3 new strengths, skills, or insights that you've gained from your caregiving experience, right? So think about how you can almost watch yourself become impressed with who you are becoming, because you're not just surviving this, right? You really are being forged into someone remarkable. So I want to talk about something that, really is not talked about often enough. And I think the majority of us are probably women in the audience today. And, as women, we're expected to be natural caregivers, right? Like society assumes we'll just intuitively know how to navigate some of this journey. And we're supposed to be selfless, endlessly patient, right? Grateful for this opportunity to serve and support our loved one. But caregiving, isn't instinctive. It's really learned, and it's labor, right? It's emotional labor, physical labor, mental labor, administrative labor. It's remembering different medications, right? It's coordinating with doctors who don't return calls, fighting with insurance companies, researching facilities, managing finances, right? The list just goes on and on and on. Some days it probably feels like its own special kind of hell, right? And that's part of maybe what can make people feel that loneliness component of it. But it's also the invisible work of preserving dignity, right? Or maybe, pretending not to notice when your mom or your dad or your spouse, loses their ability to remember how to use a fork or a spoon, right? It's also celebrating small victories, right? Like maybe when your father or your spouse remembers your name, right? Without maybe letting him see just how miraculous that simple recognition has become. And then I want to touch on guilt, right? Let's talk about that because it is something that nags at people. It could be nagging at you, right now, right? The guilt maybe for having a life outside of caregiving, right? The guilt for feeling trapped, right? Feeling trapped is real. The guilt for sometimes wishing it would just be over, right? Well, here's what I wish someone would have told me back then, right? Where when I was where you all are. Here's the reframe I really want you to internalize, right? Guilt is normal part of the experience and it's proof of your love, right? It's not evidence of any personal failure, right? You feel guilty because this matters to you. This is important, right? Guilt isn't a GPS for your life. It doesn't point you toward what's right or wrong, right? It points you toward what is human. It is a natural and normal part of the caregiving journey and the caregiving experience. And then, I think about the person in the mirror. So somewhere right in the middle of your caregiving experience, maybe you've already looked in the mirror, you will at some point in the future, and not recognize the person staring back, right? Your hair might be grayer, right? Your face might have more wrinkles, right? You'll wonder maybe when you stopped being someone's daughter or someone's spouse or someone's son and became someone's caregiver, right? Maybe when you stopped having dreams for yourself and started focusing on managing someone else's decline. And this is the metamorphosis, can be, of stepping into a caregiving role, right? And you're not disappearing, you're changing, right? And the question here isn't how to, ignore or avoid, right, this internal transformation, but really how to move through it with greater awareness and intention. I discovered things about myself I never knew. I think back on my experience and all that I learned I could really advocate fiercely, right? When I felt like my dad's doctors or care team weren't really listening or understanding. I found patience, right? I didn't know I possessed. It'll really develop patience in you. And I also developed a radar, right, for other people's pain that changed how I moved through the world. So I touched on developing emotional intelligence, right, as part of this transformative experience and developing stronger skills in empathy and compassion. And so, the effort of caring for a loved one really can make you feel at times like it's taking things from you, right? But it also evolves you and transforms you too. It gives you things you never asked for, right? It really does gives you gifts that you never knew you needed. Okay, here's insight number two I want to touch on. Strategic self-care is your secret weapon. So, I mean, things like bubble baths and spa days and sort of, these sort of traditional maybe forms of self-care. Don't get me wrong, those are very, very lovely. Those have those places, right, in our lives and in our times. But what I'm talking about here is strategic self-care that actually fits into your day-to-day reality and multiplies your energy, sustains your energy, instead of just temporarily masking your exhaustion, right? Traditional self-care advice doesn't really work for people with caregiving responsibilities, elder caregiving responsibilities, because it assumes you have unlimited time, it assumes you have no urgent responsibilities. And, what we need is a different approach entirely. And so, what I want to kind of talk about in the framework that I coach women on within my program is sort of three different components here around strategic self-care: energy givers versus energy drains, micro moments, and really an application of the 80-20 rule. So let me kind of go through each one of these in hand. When we think about energy givers versus energy drains, what is a great thing to do is make two lists and think about what gives you energy in 15 minutes or less. And then also make a list and think about what drains your energy, right? And think about how to ruthlessly protect your energy givers and systematically eliminate and delegate out your energy drains. Okay. Another one is so micro moments. So what this looks like is, instead of waiting for big chunks of time, think about how you can practice the art of micro renewal. So that could look like maybe taking 3 deep breaths before, entering your loved one's room. 3 deep breaths before you step into work for the day, right? Maybe playing your favorite music in the car between commuting or driving to appointments, or maybe just having a quick text exchange with a friend who makes you laugh, right? These quick little moments in time that can really give you a boost in your mood, a boost in your energy, right? These are very, very powerful reset tools. And then the 80-20 rule. So, one thing to practice here is to identify 20% of caregiving related tasks that create 80% of your stress. And then systematically think about how you can problem solve the heck out of those specific issues, right? It could be things like medication management, communications with the care team, family coordination, family communication. There are a lot of systems and tools and technologies and apps and platforms, right, out there in the market today that can help you with these, that can handle these, and really free your mental energy for what matters most, right? Which is connection, presence, right? And giving you back the energy. And so when I talk about strategic self-care from these three components, right, what I want to emphasize is really some practical takeaways here. And so as you think about coming out of this weekend, coming out of this session into your next couple of weeks, think about how you could implement one energy giving micro moment into each day and identify what might be even your biggest energy drain to start to systematically address and chip away at. You will be amazed at how much more capacity you have really when you become more strategic about your energy. And so much of what self-care is about how we manage our energy. Okay, insight number 3 I want to talk about. Your support system or your support ecosystem is your success system. So here's a truth that needs to be talked about more in our world. Most successful family caregivers aren't the ones who do everything themselves, right? They're the ones who become expert system builders and team leaders, right? There's so much leadership that comes from being a caregiver. They really are orchestrators, right? Think about the conductor, right? How he conducts an orchestra. Because you are not meant to do this alone, right? Pretending you can is really doing a disservice to your loved one and to yourself, right? And to others, right? Your loved one deserves a family caregiver who has support, has resources, and knows how to renew themselves too, right? And that's how you show up as your best self. So I want to talk about my framework that I coach in my program, the 3 circle support strategy. So this is really, if we kind of look at the bottom circle, the inner circle, the middle circle, and the outer circle. So looking at the bottom here, your inner circle, that's really your core team. These are your ride or die people. You can call them at 2 a.m. They get regular updates. Maybe they're getting specific asks. Maybe you give them reciprocal support when they need it, right? These relationships require investments, but they really are your lifeline. And then kind of moving to the middle up one level, right? Your resource network. So these are people who think about this. These are people maybe who want to help but need specific direction. So think about maybe, the neighbor who can pick up groceries, or maybe a friend who can help drive to appointments, or, a cousin who's great with dealing with administrative work or insurance calls. Make a list, right? Assign tasks. You can create a simple group text. You can use a shared Google document, an online care platform to coordinate this. And then think about the outer circle. So I look at this as really the professional team. So this includes doctors, social workers, support groups, professional service providers, other service providers, cleaning services, meal delivery, anyone you can, hire or access through community resources, right? The goal here is to systematically replace your time on tasks that don't require your unique relationship with your loved one. So again, thinking back to how do I chip away at stepping into more of myself as an orchestrator to the degree that I can. So here is sometimes where we stumble is, knowing what to say or how to ask for help. So I want to offer this sort of very script for getting help, right? You can say something like, I'm caring for, insert your person with dementia, and I'm looking for help with whatever specific task that might be on a specific day and time. Would you be able to help with this, or do you know someone who might? Right? So notice what this script does. It's specific, right? It's time bound, and it also offers that person an easy way out while still keeping them in your support ecosystem. So the practical takeaway from this is think about this three-circle framework and to map your three circles, right? And think about maybe starting with just one person in each circle and maybe one specific ask, right? And when you building a support system is really a skill to be developed, right? And the more you practice, the better you get. It's like building a muscle, right? And the more support you will have over time. And as you do that, the more you will step into the orchestrator role, the orchestrator mindset that I talk about. So here's a beautiful truth about this journey and what makes it transformative, right? Moving beyond survivable. Caregiving asks a lot of a person, right? But it also reveals a lot in you too, right? Strength you didn't know you had, right? Compassion that runs deeper than you imagined, right? Patience you didn't know you had capacity for love that really is extraordinary, right? Caregiving strips away everything non-essential and shows you what actually matters, right? It teaches you what resilience is. It develops your capacity for resilience, right? And resilience is about coming through low points or really hard feelings and emotions and still showing up every day, right? Developing that capacity. Resilience shows you, what strength, it shows you that strength isn't about having all of the answers, right? It really is about navigating through so much uncertainty and through so much unknown with grace. And the ripple effect of your love, right, that you are giving toward your loved one out into the world is bigger than you know, right? For those of you, in the audience today and in the group that have kids, right? Your children are watching you, right? Honor someone whose capacity for giving back is shrinking. You're role modeling the caregiving experience for them, right? And your friends are learning what commitment looks like, right? You're demonstrating that people matter, that dignity matters, right? That aging and decline deserve respect, right? Every small kindness you offer is really changing the narrative and the mindset of what it means to age and decline, face aging and decline and end of life in this country. So moving forward, where does this leave us? Like, how do we move through this experience without losing ourselves entirely? Remember, firstly, that caregiving is temporary, right? It doesn't feel temporary when you're in it, but it is. This season will eventually one day come to an end. And a question is, who do you want to be when it does? Right. And then secondly, I encourage you to find ways to document the journey. Write letters to your future self, take photos of important moments with your loved one, record their voice. That's something I didn't do as much with my dad. That I wish I would have really taken more time to do that, to really document the journey, document the experience, because these moments will matter more than you can imagine, maybe right now. And then third, right, stay connected to who you are outside of caregiving, as we've touched on. It's just so important. So I want to recap with your action plan, which hopefully starts now, starts this weekend, right? In this next couple of weeks, as you're walking away from energy over these sessions this weekend. Here's what I want you to take away and really think about in terms of action steps. Power awareness, right? Start a superpowers journal. Write down 3 strengths you've developed through caregiving. Identify an energy drain, right? Brainstorm a solution to start chipping away at that. Think about a 5-minute energy giving activity, right? That you can start doing. And then system building, right? Think about mapping those 3 support circles and making one specific ask of one person in each circle, and maybe implementing a micro moment of renewal into each day. And then integration, right? Schedule time with yourself to assess what's working and what's not working. And celebrate one small win, right? From the first maybe couple of weeks as you're doing some of these practices, as you're integrating and implementing some of these practices. Okay. Remember, you're not just surviving this experience, you really are being transformed by it, right? And that's really the critical takeaway I want you to have today, because you do have everything you need, not just to survive this journey, right? But to thrive within it and emerge stronger than you ever imagined possible. The path ahead will be uncertain, right? But you're not walking it alone anymore. You have strategies, you have a community, right? And most importantly, you can develop and have a new sense of an understanding of your own incredible strength from this experience. So with that, I want to wrap and say thank you. Thank you for this time. Thank you so much for the privilege of being part of your journey today. And thank you for becoming someone extraordinary, right? What you're doing is mastering life skills that will serve you and those around you forever. Thank you. And I would love to, with the little bit of time that we have left, Anna, open it up to the audience if they have any thoughts on what I covered, if they have any questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome, Dion. That's great. Patrick said the action plan with 3 points is a great way to reevaluate what's working and what isn't. Yeah, I like the strategy. Yeah. Yeah, the pictures say 1,000 words. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Hmm.
Well, I want to say that 2 points that I wrote down is thinking about caregiving as an internal transformation. I really loved how
Mm.
you said that. And you have to
Yeah, it really is. I
protect.
love that.
And I loved when you said you have to protect your energy givers. I wrote that down as well.
Protect your energy givers, right? We talk a lot about self-care and so much about self-care again, traditional advice, right? It doesn't resonate always. It really is about how we protect, how we manage our energy. Yeah, I know, it's great. Well, thank you, everybody. Here's where you can learn more about me and my website if you're interested about learning about my coaching program and how I work with family caregivers. So thank you so much, and I hope you really enjoy the rest of the sessions this weekend and find them educational as well as inspiring.
Well, thank you so much, Kathleen. That was a really, really insightful session. Like I said, I took down notes about thinking about caregiving as an internal transformation and thinking of it as a leadership transformation because it really is. I like the idea of journaling about your superpowers. So I would like to ask all of you to please give Kathleen some feedback using the survey. You can also do some emojis in the chat. The link for that, I'm going to post it in the chat in a second. And again, at the end of today, I'm going to be looking at all the responses that we got, and I'm going to be picking 4 lucky people for some exciting prizes. So I'm looking forward to doing that later today. And with that, we have time for lunch. We're going to be reconvening at around